you doing, good people? This is the 8-Bit Animal. Yesterday we talked about Ghostbusters. Again, I'm sorry. That game is terrible. Today we're going to talk about not one, but two games based on the sequel to Ghostbusters. The movie was released in 1989, and it was actually a high point for that franchise. You see, the real Ghostbusters was on Saturday morning television on ABC. There were toys all through toy shelves at stores around the country. And Ecto Cooler was a thing. I miss Ecto Cooler also. It's okay. Well, in addition to those things, apparently we were going to get another video game. Like, the first game, as bad as it was, sold way too well for us to not get a sequel. And so Activision handled that, and they released the game based on the sequel. Funny thing though, they didn't release it in Japan. They released it in the US in April of 1990 and in the UK in March of 91. Meanwhile, over in Japan, Hal Labs got their hands on the rights to produce the game outside of the US. That was free of the constraints set forth by the Activision license. And so in December of 1990, Hal released their game based on Ghostbusters 2. And guess who decided that they wanted to talk about both games today? This guy. So today, we are going to take a look at Ghostbusters 2 from Activision and new Ghostbusters 2 from Hal Laboratory. Now, the Activision Ghostbusters 2 game was developed by Imagineering. And while it's not the worst thing that Imagineering has done, I mean, dare I say, it might be one of the better things that they did on the NES. Actually, it was. Imagineering did not have a good track record. They struggled all the way through the NES life cycle. And this game, while it does have some good things going for it, like there's more than one type of gameplay here. There's some side-scrolling levels, there's some driving levels, and there's a level where you control the Statue of Liberty. The problem is though that those levels kind of get repetitive, and we're going to talk about why that's so hilarious in a sec when we talk about the other game. But the beauty of this game is that the soundtrack was a bit better than the soundtrack in the first game. I mean, anything could be better than that because it was only just a loop of the Ghostbusters theme over and over. But yeah, this Activision game, while not terrible, could have been a lot better. But this was indicative of what Activision did to us throughout their time on the NES. Meanwhile, Hal's game, also another thing with that game, there really is no for real two-player mode in either game. This one tells you that there's a two-player mode, and you alternate between, y'all pass the controller back and forth like Mario Brothers. Meanwhile, Hal's game has, it just lays it out there. Yeah, this is one player. I mean, second player can control the second Ghostbuster. But let me explain first. So, with Ghostbusters 2, new Ghostbusters 2 rather, you can control two characters simultaneously. One is your primary character, the other one follows you around. You press A to use the proton pack with one character and the trap with the other character, the one that just follows you. You can take control of all four of the regular Ghostbusters, though Winston for some weird reason is kind of blue. And you can also control Lewis, Rick Moranis' character in this game, which is pretty interesting. There is no slime sprayer in this game, but there's no proton pack in the Activision game. It's pretty odd. But this one, the HAL game, is repetitive in its own way because you simply go to a screen, clear all the ghosts out on that screen, wait for an arrow to pop up, and go where that arrow sends you, and that's how you end up at the next screen. And while this can get repetitive, it's a lot of fun. It controls well, it handles well, it's just a fun video game. HAL's game also skips over the Statue of Liberty stuff, whereas the Activision game, you play two back-to-back levels controlling the Statue of Liberty with the Jackie Wilson song in it. At the same time, the HAL game, while it doesn't have the Jackie Wilson song in it, because why would it if there's no Statue of Liberty levels, there are 8-bit renditions of the Bobby Brown song from the soundtrack, one of the Bobby Brown songs from the soundtrack, and the Dougie Fresh song from the soundtrack. So, hey, look at black folks in video game soundtracks. But both of them are hard in their own way. The HAL game is a lot easier, and the HAL game, like I said, it just feels a lot more fun to me. Has since the first time I stumbled across a ROM of it, because there's no real way to get your hands on a copy outside of importing it or getting a repro card. But both games have their pluses, both games have their minuses. The Activision game is a lot easier to get your hands on. The HAL game just feels better to me. If you like it though, if you like the Activision game, ooh, I'm happy for you. Otherwise though, nah, I'll stick with the HAL one. If you decide though that you want either one of these games, here's the thing. The Activision game, you can get it for about like $10 or something like that, $10 to $15. The HAL game, there are assorted ways to get your hands on it. If you decide you want to import it, like I always say, make sure that you have a way to play it. If you don't, just go get a repro cart. My repro cart was like $30, and it was a great buy. I'm glad I bought it. That guy knows what he's doing, and I'm probably gonna go back to him. I got his list. But yeah, both games, like I said, have their pluses and their minuses. And probably the biggest minus for the HAL one is that you gotta do a little extra legwork to get your hands on it. Otherwise, I would go with that one. The Activision one is just, while it's probably one of the better things Imagineering developed, that don't mean nothing because Imagineering made some garbage. Lots and lots of garbage. But this has been the 8-Bit Animal. And I'll catch you beautiful people tomorrow. tomorrow. Wait, so he's a real estate agent. What in the Joe versus the volcano is it? Man, Bram Stoker was tripping.